Hello! In this video I'd like to look at how to divide a whole number by a fraction, and this is to accompany exercise B in the worksheet that I've set for you for this week. In the last video we looked at 2 wholes divided by 1/4, and I encouraged you to draw out a little diagram showing 2 wholes being divided up into quarters. And if I divide those 2 wholes up into quarters, I can see that each of those wholes has 4 quarters. So if I'm looking at how many quarters divided into 2 wholes, I can see there are 8 quarters altogether. So I'm just going to label each one a quarter so that you can see what I'm talking about. So we know that 2 divided by a quarter must equal 8. The thing is, sometimes it's quite tricky to draw a diagram. For example, if I had asked you about 263 divided by a quarter, it wouldn't really be that useful to draw out 263 bars of chocolate and then shade in the quarters. Now I can see that I've got 4 quarters in the first one, 4 quarters in the second one, and of course 4 and 4 is 8. But we would like to come up with a general rule. Now I know that dividing by a quarter must mean the same as multiplying by 4. So whenever I see a division with a fraction, I'm going to turn it into a multiplication. And instead of dividing by a quarter, I'm going to multiply by the inverse of a quarter, which is multiplying by 4. So I think 2 divided by a quarter is the same as doing 2 multiplied by 4 over 1. Now I know that 2 wholes can be written as 2 over 1. So now I'm just going to remember my multiplying fractions rule, where I multiply the numerators together, and 2 times 4 is 8, and I'm multiplying the denominators together, and 1 times 1 is 1. I know that 8 over 1 is the same as 8 wholes, because 8 divided by 1 is 8. So therefore, it's fairly easy to divide by a fraction when I have a whole number that I'm starting with. For example, 3 divided by a quarter is going to work out very similar, because each bar of chocolate, of course, can be divided up into 4 pieces. And if I have a look at my diagram of quarters for each whole, I can see that in each whole there are 4 quarters, and 3 lots of 4 is 12. I'm going to use my rule, and I'm going to say that 3 divided by a quarter is the same as 3 multiplied by the inverse of the fraction. So I think it's exactly the same as saying 3 multiplied by 4 over 1. If I'm multiplying fractions, I'd like them both written as fractions, so 3 is the same as 3 over 1, and 3 times 4, of course, is 12, and 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. I know that 12 divided by 1 is 12, so my answer makes sense. So I've written down a rule explaining what we've just done. To divide a whole number by a fraction, we multiply by the inverse, or reciprocal, of the fraction. The word reciprocal that I've used there is the proper name for the inverse of a fraction. Using this rule, you can answer any questions that I choose to give you. So why don't you have a go at this question? You can pause it after I've written down the question, and you can have a go. So I want to know what 3 divided by 1/2 is. Have a go, you don't have to draw the diagram. So I've got to always remember to multiply by the inverse of the fraction. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to say that 3 divided by the half is the same as 3 multiplied by 2 over 1. I'm going to make the 3 wholes into a fraction by doing 3 divided by 1, or 3 over 1. And then I'm going to do my multiplication, because I always multiply the numerators together. 3 times 2 is 6. And I always multiply the denominators together. 1 times 1 is 1. I see that 6 over 1 is the same as 6 wholes, so I'm going to write down my answer as 6. Here's another one for you to try. Number 2, which is 5 divided by 3 quarters. You may press pause, and I'm going to now show you how to do it. Okay, let's hope you got this one right. So remember, we multiply by the inverse of the fraction that we're dividing by. So that helps me to write out a new calculation that I can do. It's going to be the same as 5 multiplied by 4 thirds. Notice that the whole number stays the same. That first value stays the same, but I'm going to make it as a fraction, 5 over 1. And of course, I'm going to multiply my numerators together. 5 times 4 is 20, and 1 times 3 is 3. And I can see that I've now got a fraction answer, which is 20 thirds, or 20 over 3. If I think about what that means as an improper fraction, it means 20 divided by 3. Well, I know that 3 divides into 20 6 times, because 6 times 3 is 18. I now have 2 left over out of 3, and my answer is 6 2/3. If I had wanted to, I could have kept my answer as 20 over 3, and that would have also been correct. I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you 10 divided by 5/12. You may pause it, and now I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to remember to always follow my rule, and I'm going to turn it into a multiply. So I'm going to do 10 multiplied by the inverse or reciprocal of 5/12. So I'm going to rewrite it as a multiplication, 10 multiplied by 12 over 5. I'm going to remember to find the right pen. I want to use a blue pen this time because I'm going to have 10 over 1 there. Good. Now, from our multiplying lessons, I did tell you that, of course, if you can simplify before you multiply, that would be better than simplifying at the end. Because if I were to multiply my numerators together, I would get 120, and then the denominator would be 5. And that's fine if I want to do that. However, I can see that I've got 10 times 12, and I can also see that I've got 5 times 1. And of course, it doesn't matter the order that you multiply. But I do now know that I can divide the 10 by 5 twice, and I can divide the 5 by 5 once. I can now see I've got 2 lots of 12, which is 24, and 1 lot of 1, which is 1. My answer is actually 24. If I'd have done that the long way, and I'd have got 120 divided by 5, I could have said, I'll get my bus stop out, I'll do division, and I'll do 5 into 12, which go twice, with 2 left over, and 5 divides into 20 4 times, and I still have the answer 24. So you should always simplify your answers when you can. So here's a multiple choice question for you. Can you choose which answer, A, B, C or D, you think is the correct one, please? You may pause the video, and I'm going to now answer it. Okay, so I can see the question is 3 divided by 1/6. I'm going to change it into a multiplication, 3 multiplied. 6 over 1 is the inverse of the fraction. 3 is 3 over 1, or 3 divided by 1, and I can see that 3 times 6 is 18. 1 times 1 is 1, and my answer should be 18. It was D. I hope you got that one correct. Let's have a look at the second multiple choice question that I've got for you. And here it is, 8 divided by 5/6. Please choose A, B, C or D. Pause. And I'm going to go through the answer. So 8 divided by 5/6 is the same question as 8 multiplied by 6 over 5. I'm going to make the 8 into a fraction there, and 8 lots of 6 is 48, and 1 lot of 5 is 5. So I'm looking at the choice of answers there, and I can see that D is 48 over 5. I've got one more for you to try, and that's number 3, which is there. How many times does 3/4 go into 12? Please choose A, B, C or D. Pause. Then I'm going to go through the answers. Well, this is the same question as 12 divided by 3/4. It means the same thing. How many 3/4 go into 12? So 12 divided by 1 divided by 3/4. You notice I've put the 12 divided by 1 before I start doing my multiplication, and that's fine as well. So I'm going to remember to always multiply by the inverse of the fraction that I'm dividing by. So I'm going to go back to blue. So I've got 12 over 1 multiplied by 4/3. Well, I've got 12 lots of 4, which is 48, and I've got 1 lot of 3, which is 3. I'm just going to check to see if 3 divides into 48, because I think somehow that it might. 3 divides into 4 once, with 1 left over, and 3 divides into 18 6 times. My answer should be 16. I can see that matches answer B. You have now graduated to answer exercise B on the sheet. Good luck.